To another edition of Smarknado. I'm your host, Eric Druckman. With me, as always, the Danaconda, Dirty Dan Sesnit. Dan, you all prepared for the holiday season?
Fuck no. I'm a dude, man. I haven't even done any of my shopping. You know, Jeff Bezos might be a monster, but Amazon rules. So,
Yeah, kind of the same boat here, in
facts.
some ways, and hopefully my family's not listening. Who am I kidding? My immediate family doesn't listen to my podcast. Um,
Why would
but
they?
I agree with you, man. It is kind of it's hard to shop for people as you get older.
It's terrible, man. Like I like the holidays, and I think it's
Mhm.
mostly I just like the food at this point, man. Because gift giving and gift getting, it's just tedious at this point. You know what I mean? Like it's just. I mean, I like
Totally.
spending time with my family, and truth be told, my mom's coming up to visit, so that's pretty awesome, man. Like I haven't gotten to
That's
see her in a little
fantastic,
while,
man.
so
Yeah, man. The older
yeah,
you get, the less you are into material things.
sure,
It's more about the moments. It's more about the time spent, and
facts. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
that's really the beauty of Christmas. So let's talk about something very material today: professional wrestling. um, First, let's start off with the Continental Classic. Let's do a little update on that, where we're at with it, because God, Continental Classic, at least to me, is the gift that just keeps on giving.
It's the best
Um,
thing to happen to wrestling in as long as I can remember. American wrestling, and as long as I can remember.
yeah,
Um,
man. Uh,
Storylines be damned. This is the most fun I've had in a really long time.
and you know what? That's people that are just so dismissive and say like, "Oh, well, I like my wrestling to have storylines." They're not really paying attention to the Continental Classic, because there are some storylines that are being told throughout it. One of which I can bring up is Claudio, who faced Andrade. After he lost to Eddie last week, he had cut a promo backstage basically saying that, you know, desperate times, desperate measures. He needs to do something about this. I think he is taking kind of a he's taking inspiration from Moxley, and how Moxley had won his match underhandedly against Swerve. So he took a shortcut to beat Andrade this week, with a low blow, and he's advanced in the tournament to, well, at least to stay alive. While Andrade is sitting with 9 points now.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on it. It's another one of those things, man. Is BCC babyface? Is BCC heel? Will BCC do whatever it takes to win? What's
Mm-hmm.
the focus of their group? Um, so I don't love that, but it makes sense. You know, people are complicated, right? You're not
Mm-hmm.
always going to be good. You're not always going to be bad. Sometimes it just takes, winning to win. Um, but the contests have been nothing short of perfect, and they're not blowing out of proportion. Doing in-ring promos. They're doing it the New Japan way, where they are doing backstage promos and
Mm-hmm.
segments after the matches, and it's just done wonders for how we consume wrestling as fans here in America,
Yeah,
truthfully.
I agree, man. I couldn't have said it better. And I also just wanted to mention all the other matches that happened from the show on Dynamite. Brian versus Brody, I thought was a treat. This is a match that I never knew I needed. It was a true David and Goliath. That is,
I mean,
shown through the eyes of Brian Danielson.
he hit Brody with three psycho knees to win, which
Mm-hmm.
is, Brody kicked out at one on the first one.
Yeah.
And that's just like, and think about it. That's a match that won him the world title on the biggest stage, or a move that won him the world title on the biggest stage. And Brody kicked out of it like nothing. And a lot of people might say that, well, that's, disrespectful, but no, like that's fighting. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
your move just doesn't hit, man. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes the dude is just bigger and stronger than you, and it takes a heck of a lot more to put him away. Um, and Danielson knows that, and I don't think that there was a second in his mind where he wasn't like, yeah, man, kick out at 1, it'll be awesome.
Right. Right. It was about surviving. It was about, throwing everything that you can at this opponent in order to, win.
Yep.
So where we are, and I also want to mention too, before we get to, the progression of where we are in the standings. Eddie Kingston versus Daniel Garcia was a very, very good match too. Once again, telling the story of Eddie just trying to stay alive in this tournament. He needs to finish with at least 9 points, and everyone else needs to kind of stay at 9 points. You know, um,
Yeah.
I think that the way that we're looking at the Blue League right now, you have Claudio at 6 points. You have Danielson at 9, and then Claudio and Danielson are going to be facing each other. And then you have Brody at 6. Daniel Garcia is at 0, but he's going to be facing Brody next. And then you have Andrade at 9 versus Kingston at 6. I think that what we're going to end up with is basically like a 4-way tie. I got Eddie Kingston does get away with beating Andrade,
Uh-huh.
or they tell the story of Eddie coming up short against Andrade and having like a vendetta against him. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think it is going to be Eddie beating Andrade, and then we're going to have Danielson and Claudio. And my pick for that, I think that this is going to be kind of a battle of just two men that are taking the tournament in a different way. You got Danielson, who I feel like is taking a more honorable approach, but is still part of the BCC. And then Claudio, like I said, is somebody that is doing whatever it takes to win this tournament, is taking a page out of the book of Moxley. And I think he's going to get the better of Danielson by underhanded means. And there's gonna be a 4 person tie at the top. Is what I think is going to happen.
Uh, they still have not thrown in a time limit draw yet,
Mm-hmm.
which is like simultaneously pisses me off and like confuses me because that's the way to create more drama, right? With points.
Mm-hmm.
So you're playing it too close to the vest by doing it wins or losses here. If you like, why even put that third option in if you're not going to utilize it at some point?
Mm-hmm.
So, assuming that everybody wins in this, and we don't see another tie or see a time limit draw, which I do think we will. I think it goes Danielson winning. Um,
At 10
I,
points.
no, I think maybe it's Danielson and Claudio tie, and it's 10-7, and we see Garcia or Eddie win against Andrade, puts him
To
to
9.
9. So that's 10-9, and then Brody. Um, maybe somehow, some way, this is sort of that Daniel Garcia moment where he either struggles to a time limit draw or somehow beats Brody
I
here.
think Garcia plays spoiler to Brody. That's at
Uh,
least how I think is this is
so
going to play
so
out.
I think ultimately it ends with Danielson versus Eddie, and I think Eddie is the one that wins there. For no other reason than Danielson
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, he's beat up, man, and there's
Mm-hmm.
other things that he can be doing. Eddie, this whole thing is just tailor made for Eddie to win, and I think that that's the way that that's going to go down in the blue bracket.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm just looking at gold too. Like how. Oh, it's kind of hard for me to decide how this is going to play out because the remaining matches in this one, Jay White and Moxley. Whew, this is a tough one to call.
I got
If
Jay
I'm
White
looking at
here.
it, was that
I got Jay White here.
you got Jay White? Okay, and
Yeah,
then he ties it at 12,
I do. I have Jay White here,
and then they have a rematch for the final.
or maybe a time limit draw.
Okay,
Again, these that's a thing that hasn't factored in yet. So like, I'm hoping in some way, shape, or form it does and add some intrigue to it. But
it's the top 2 guys, right?
correct.
Okay, huh.
But I do think that Jay White ultimately ends up winning, and then Swerve ultimately ends up winning, and they tie 3-way for a 12 points there.
Mhm.
That's my bet.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, I could also even see, Jay White, he gets the better of Moxley somehow, or he comes to a time limit draw, and he's at the either scenario, he's at the point where he is up on top, and then if Swerve wins, Swerve would threaten that that spot. I guess it really depends on who is going to be the main event
it's going to
on
be an interesting week.
Dynamite.
It's going to
Yeah.
be an interesting week for the Continental Classic. I think that this is the most intriguing week of it, and that's saying a lot because it's been a very intriguing tournament thus far. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know about you, but
Oh
um,
hell yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I'm digging the direction it's been taking, and I'm excited for tomorrow and Saturday.
Absolutely, man. Yep. Yeah, and that's not to say too, like if Roosh wins, say if Roosh wins and he jumps up to 9 points, that'll have Swerve end at 9 points, and say Jay White loses to Moxley, then you'd have a three-way tie at 9 points in that league
Mhm.
too. So
I think either way, you're going to see something screwy happen. I've said it from the beginning. I think that it's going to ultimately be Mox versus Eddie at World's End. I just think
I'd be fine with that.
that's the best match, right? And Eddie
Mhm.
finally gets his win over Mox, and
Or
proves
even Eddie and Jay White again. The run that back from last year, and that Jay White, or I'm sorry, Eddie Kingston was the reason why Jay White got kicked out of New Japan storyline wise.
true,
So,
true. It
yep.
makes sense. It does make sense. I would still go with Mox Eddie, um, in Long Island. I think that down the road, you could still play Eddie versus Jay White. That's something
Mhm.
you keep in your back pocket for another day. But right now, that's still the story because that story got cut off when the G1 started. So
Yeah,
um, I would say that that's the best way to play that, in my opinion.
absolutely. All right, so let's wrap up the Continental Classic. Great matches this week. Speaking of great matches, Ring of Honor Final Battle happened on Friday night, and holy fuck, that whole show was way better than it had any business being, considering the fact that you know Ring of Honor is on an app every single week, and it doesn't get that much play on AEW TV, but man, did we get some absolute bangers on this show. And I would say my only criticism of this show, as much as I loved it, so long. Just damn.
It was very long. I ended up watching the second half of it the next day. I won't lie to
Mhm.
you. I was just I'm an old dude that gets tired real fucking easy.
Yeah.
Some handful of things that stood out to me. Pre-show,
Hmm.
notably Daniel Garcia versus Blake Christian, and Brian Keith versus Jack Cartwheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the last spot in the TV title match, the six way. Um, Crazy stuff, man, to
Not
see.
We've sang the praises of Brian Keith up and down on this podcast before. He is somebody that genuinely deserves to have an opportunity in Ring of Honor, but just very, very good play on their part of bringing in Brian Keith as the hometown boy, coming out of, where in Texas were they in again?
Garland.
In Garland, Texas.
Yeah.
Texas guy. It's great that they gave him that opportunity. And yeah, Daniel Garcia and Blake Christian was so goddamn good. And I was so happy to see Ring of Honor being able to showcase Blake Christian as the shitty heel that we all know him to be in
Yeah.
GCW. And I want to see a lot more of that. Because if you want to talk about reasons to bring us to watching the show every week on the app, if they do some sort of evolution of Blake Christian just being a total fucking piece of shit, I'm here for it.
Yeah, he would be a really good, heel to have on that product. It's he's we've sung his praises dozens of times. He was never that white meat baby face that he sort of got pushed into. As soon as he flipped that switch to being that shit heel, he's just
Mhm.
been that much better. And it was just his ring work, that all speaks for itself. We don't need to say anything about that. But the
Yeah.
character work has just improved so
Mhm.
much that you love to see it.
And let's just say too, I think that it really needs to be said just how much work the guys that have been in the Continental Classic have put in um, to these matches in the on the Ring of Honor card. The
Yeah.
fact that they still are face of the Continental Classic, yet guys like Garcia, Eddie Kingston, um, Moxley, Danielson, and Claudio just went balls to the wall on this show, regardless of the fact that they're in such a grueling tournament.
Yeah,
So much
half the
more
tournament was
respect
in
for
the friggin' was in on the Ring of Honor pay per view,
them. Mhm.
which is it says a lot because it looks like they want to do right by Ring of Honor, you know, putting the Ring of Honor quote unquote pay per view more of a PLE style like WWE did is a smart play because truthfully, like I liked it, I enjoyed the show, I was never gonna pay for it, never,
Absolutely. I,
never.
I
It
I
just
agree with
is.
you there, man. And I think that's the way that Tony has to do it. You
Mhm.
know, you want to drive up those subscriptions to make all the pay-per-views put all the pay-per-views on that app. You
I
know, it's
I
that
I
simple.
I'm wondering if this was sort of a trial run to see how the numbers look if they were to do a streaming service for AEW, whether adding it all onto Max or anything like that, with Ring of Honor as part of it.
Yeah.
I think that this was sort of an experiment in that vein. And I think, truthfully, it succeeded in a lot of ways, particularly in ring. Like, it's hard to deny up and down the card how good this was. Was there
Mhm.
star power? Yes. In the main event, I mean, you're gonna have shitheads that argue that Athena isn't star power, but she's carried that brand for the past year on her back.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of them that would argue that.
So let's dissect this show, at least the best we can. So the opening match here was El Hijo del Vikingo against Black Taurus for the AAA Mega Championship. I
Tony.
Bro, I totally agree with the fact that this match started off the show because that's a great way to bring energy to the crowd. A lot of really crazy spots and whatnot. Um, Vikingo won here. I'm always going to say this about Vikingo. I think that he is absolutely wildly talented. I think that the things that he does are incredible. I just think that there are times, and especially in this match, there were moments where he was trying to do things and he had to make like 2 or 3 attempts at it in order to get it down. And it's just like, brother, you do so much special shit, but just don't do like 16 different spots like that in a match. You can cut it down by like half and still have a phenomenal match.
Agree
Um,
to disagree. I will say that he does have the habit of trying to redo a move. I think that he should cut his losses and move on to the next one in that regard. But I'm all for the spot fest. I don't
it,
watch Vikingo for anything more than that. So
Yeah,
I'm going
it
to
just
disagree
takes
with
me
you
out
on
of it
that
a
one.
little bit. I remember when Vikingo and Commander were teaming with each other for those last couple weeks, and I thought that was the money right there to me.
No.
Um, Both of those guys kind of dividing up their spots, and there was just a lot of just not a lot of botches when you have them both as a tag team.
No,
You know,
no. And there's not typically a lot of botches with Vikingo, but he is just, I think, and I mean, again, I'm not trying to get inside his head. I think he's just such a prideful person that he doesn't want to imagine that he can't make that move that he just tried to do happen.
yeah,
Right? Like that's kind of what it seems like with him.
for sure. Next match was Mogul Embassy defending the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles against TMDK. That's Bad Dude Tito, Shane Haste, and Kosi Fujita. This was okay. Okay, I wasn't like
will always impress
super
me
into
though.
it.
No, it was a good 6-man tag match. Bad Dude Tito is really an impressive wrestler though, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
you look at him and you're like, he doesn't look like much, but he's so strong and just really just insanely weirdly athletic
Crazy
that
athletic. Yeah.
is like you just don't expect it for some reason. It comes out of left
Mm-hmm.
field for me. I don't know. Maybe you expect it, but I don't.
Yeah, he's dope. All in all, though, I just feel like that this was a match that didn't really need to be there on the show. Maybe they could have
Yeah.
done it on the pre-show or something like that.
This show
Next
is
we
pretty
had
loaded with matches already, though. I think that you'd just be better off cutting it out completely. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
yeah.
Sorry.
Next match we had Ethan Page, Tony Nese in an I Quit match. Um, I thought that this was gonna be a much more layered story, but it turned out like it was an I Quit match because Ethan Page quit the group training that Tony Nese was running, and it's just like I I wish there was more. I expected there to be a lot more of a story to this. With them
I'm gonna
having an
get
I
back
Quit match.
into Ring of Honor so I could like really judge the stories that go through them.
Yeah,
So not knowing how it went down or anything like that, strictly judging this feud on this match,
that be yeah.
it was awesome.
The match had match was way better than it had any business being.
Like you said about the pay per view in the first
Like
place.
like
You're
I said
right.
about
Like
the pay per view in the first place. Yeah, like I was just like, holy shit! Like the lengths that they were going to, the violence in this match, Ethan Page just bleeding everywhere. Um, yeah, this was cool. And then of course the return of Scorpio Sky to have the back
love it.
of Ethan Page. I think bringing back Men of the Year, newly found babyface Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky together, those two really big personalities. I think that is the move to have them together as a tag team.
Put
Maybe
the Ring of
have them
Honor tag
challenge for
titles.
the.
Yeah.
I don't even want them to challenge for the Ring of Honor tag team titles. I want them to challenge for the AEW World Tag Team titles because I think that the segments between them and Ricky Starks and Big Bill would be really, really good shit.
Too much of a clusterfuck. Ring of Honor needs tag title champ or tag champs. With MJF and Adam Cole being on the shelf, I think it's such a silly move. It makes no sense to have those titles on them. It's easy enough to get it off of them. Let Scorpio and Ethan Page run that division in Ring of Honor. I think that's the move.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Great match overall. But next we had Nyla Rose and Vert Vixen, which is the most filler I've ever seen for a match, really.
Just
Well,
didn't need to
actually,
be there.
yeah, it didn't need to be there at all.
It's weird.
Don't really have much to say about it. They're going to give Vert Vixen an opportunity in Ring of Honor. Cool. We'll see how she develops. Next, we have the Survival of the Fittest finals for the vacant Ring of Honor World Television Championship. We had Commander, Brian Keith, Lee Moriarty, Dalton Castle, Lee Johnson. Ultimately, it was Kyle Fletcher that came out of the match last, defeating Commander. I loved this, and I love the fact that I don't know how familiar you are with the Survival of the Fittest tournament
Really.
that Ring of Honor used to do every single year. Basically, on the same card, there'd be like 5 or 6 qualifying matches, and each one of the guys that would win that would go on to the Survival of the Fittest match, which was exactly like this. It's an elimination style 6-way match where guys are just kind of throwing everything against the wall, and that's what we got here. I think that every single guy that was in this match got some sort of shine.
Yeah, it did everything to enhance everybody's strengths. I definitely liked that. I'll be honest, man, that it was a head scratcher for me as far as the winner. Like, not that I don't like them,
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Fletcher. I like him a lot, But again, he's been so prominent on AEW TV that why are you having him hold that Ring of Honor championship? It's just, it makes no sense when you have a guy like Dalton Castle who can again be an anchor for your brand on Ring of Honor. A guy like Lee Moriarty who's had his chance to get a push. Commander who is a guy that you will tune in for to see if he's going to wrestle a match every week. Or hell, the upstart Brian Keith. Truthfully, and this is no disrespect to him, Lee Johnson is the only guy that I wouldn't have preferred over Kyle Fletcher in this scenario.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
little bit hard to buy at that point with Lee
yeah,
Johnson, and that he hasn't really been presented in that kind of way. But I mean, the way that the match developed, I could see why they didn't have Dalton Castle win. They want to have this feud going on with Johnny TV continue.
sure, I
Um,
like that.
I think they gave really good shine to Lee Moriarty and him
Mm-hmm.
eliminating both Lee Johnson and Dalton Castle. Um, Lee looked really good out there, man. And then Brian Keith came in, eliminating Lee Moriarty, looking great. And, you know, that Fletcher eliminates Brian Keith. And then ultimately, we got like a match within a match between Kyle Fletcher and Commander, which was absolutely fucking bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Kyle Fletcher came out on top. And I can't help but agree with you, Dan. Like, Kyle Fletcher is someone that is so prominent on AEW television. They really needed to put this belt on somebody that would consistently be on the Ring of Honor brand
Mm-hmm.
and being a presence on that TV show. And for all we know, maybe Kyle Fletcher will be that guy. Maybe they will kind of, take a step back and not have him as prominently on as part of the Don Callis family on TV. Maybe more of just like a second or stuff like that. If they're gonna go with Kyle Fletcher here, then in turn I want to see Don Callis on Ring of Honor TV with Kyle Fletcher, giving him that rub, giving him that
Yeah,
credibility. You know?
that's what it needs. Like, if you want to make him a big deal, like he's better than what you got in Ring of Honor, you have to present him as such on Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise you just put a title on somebody because he has the most eyeballs on him, and that's just not the best way to book your show, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we had Wheeler Yuta defending the Ring of Honor Pure Championship against Filthy Tom Lawler, which was a very nice surprise. And man, I thought that the bell to bell action between these two, the technical, um, it was a nice palate cleanser from the wild survival of the fittest match that we had prior. Seeing these two kind of go hold for hold with each other. Ultimately, Yuta got the better of Tom Lawler. I like the
Low blow
fact
though.
that
Low blow though.
yeah,
Yeah. He's
he
going
he's
he's going Claudio style.
he's going Claudio style, he's going Moxley style. You know, I think the way that we're kind of seeing it with the BCC, everyone's being underhanded. It's so it seems, except for Danielson, and I feel like we may see a storyline play out where Danielson's not really down with the current vibe of
Maybe.
Blackpool Combat Club. You know?
If he wants one more vaguely babyface run of his career, that's how they would do it. But he's
Mm-hmm.
just so hot right now that I can't see. Like, I just don't want that from him. I want him playing this character till he's done. This is Brian Danielson.
Yeah, yeah, man. But this was a great match, and I hope we see more of Filthy Tom in Ring of Honor, and maybe even some appearances in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big part of New Japan Strong. So, especially if you're going to ultimately have New Japan Strong and Ring of Honor World, and then the AEW, Continental Championship as that triple crown, then Tom should be involved in that in some shape, form, or fashion, since he's basically competed at every level of that. So,
Absolutely. Next, we had grudge match: Keith Lee, Shane Taylor, former tag team partners colliding finally. Very long build to this, going back to like 2017. Uh, Holy fuck, bro! I was not expecting this to be like a jaw-dropping match, but it was, and I really got to give a lot of credit to Shane Taylor He came in. He looks like he dropped a real nice amount of weight, maybe around 60 pounds or so. He looks a lot slimmer than he was. And I guess the move of the match that just stands out in my mind is that Canadian destroyer that Shane Taylor hit on
Yeah.
Keith Lee from the top rope. Just like holy fucking shit.
Yeah,
These
it was
guys work
another
their
one of the,
asses off.
it was another one of the examples of almost every match on this card that has like they came out and they showed out. They wanted to show what this Ring of Honor was all about, and they put on another different yet special match, right? There wasn't another match on this card that was similar to this. And that
Yeah.
was one of the great parts about this card on a whole is like everything was a little bit different.
Yes.
There
I
wasn't any
agree.
two matches that were, okay, I just saw that 3 matches ago. Like you're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, this is new and different, and it was a really cohesive card, and the way it flowed was really fun.
I agree, man. Next we had Dem Top Guys, FTR, Mark Briscoe against BCC, Brian Danielson, Moxley, and Claudio. This is a Jay Briscoe memorial fight without honor. Now, you want to talk about this just being the most violent match on the card? Hell yeah, it was. And I think that they had the thought in mind that Jay Briscoe would want to wrestle this type of match where you're just throwing everything against the wall.
If they didn't make this the most violent match on the card, they failed at what they claimed to be in every way, shape, and form. Um, the highlight of this whole entire match is just putting that mic in Briscoe's hand and him just saying,
to restart the
"Referee,
match.
referee Paul Turner, you done lost your fucking mind." Like it was just really just I got misty eyed through this match. I did. I truly did because I was watching it and I was like, this is, obviously I've never met Jay Briscoe in person. I've never, but he had an aura about him that that this is what he would have loved. And that's
Yes.
what got
Yeah.
me so like emotional and like it made you feel something every inch of the match for so many different reasons.
And thank God for a guy like Brian Danielson. You know that he approached Mark Briscoe backstage and was just like, I'm taking the pin from you tonight
Yeah.
after the Jay Driller. And that's exactly what happened. Jay Driller into a bunch of chairs. And Mark Briscoe got the win. And yeah, that was definitely an emotional moment right there. Him, standing tall with FTR. What did you think of What did you think of Dax approaching the girl in the crowd that was on her phone?
I have mixed feelings about it because, like, if it was mid-match, I would have been like, okay, I get your eyes on the match. But it was pre-match, and I think that I think the most apt description of what he did is another example of wrestling scaring the hose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if it was
I
mid-match, I would have respected it a little bit more. It was pre-match. It was kind of corny.
I understand the importance of the match and how it was a tribute to Jay Briscoe. So I can understand him feeling very, very, very strong about it. But the fact is that Dax cares way too much about what other people think,
Yep.
whether he likes to admit it or not. And he needs to get out of his own way before he gets himself into trouble.
Also, let's be honest with everybody else too. Regardless of whether it was pre-match or not, kind of a dick move to be in the front row and not give any bit of a shit. Right?
Yes,
Like it seemed like maybe she
there's
was
two
there with
sides.
somebody, but like, I wouldn't have done it if I was in Dax's position. But I also wouldn't have done what she did either.
Yeah.
I think they were both shitheads.
So I'm going to give this match a hot dog and a handshake. This Jay Briscoe Memorial fight without honor.
I would absolutely 100% say I would also go ahead and give this one a hot dog.
And a handshake?
And a handshake.
All right. Love that graphic, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's my new hot dog graphic. fresh off the presses for you. But
Mhm.
yeah, man, this was a hot dog and a handshake match. I couldn't find a good handshake graphic, so Jericho holding the hot dog had to do.
I think our
Man,
handshake draft graphic very naturally needs to be the Mega Powers.
okay, fair enough. I'll find
Does
that.
that make the most sense?
Coming
Like,
up
come on.
next week, we'll do. But yeah, no, this was match of the night. Sorry Athena, sorry Billy Starks. It just was. We'll get to their match
You
a little
changed your
bit.
tune on that.
I did. This is I thought about it. I watched both again actually. Um,
Mhm.
while I was working, and just the emotion of it. In particular, it was about the finishes.
Yeah.
For me. So we'll discuss that, but continue.
And next we had Eddie Kingston defeating Anthony Henry in a proving ground match. I know people may have thought that this was kind of pointless on the card, but I'm actually glad this match was here because
Perfect.
they needed to kind of put something in the dead spot right before the main event to take everybody down from the crazy fight without honor that happened. And it
Yep.
was important to get the Ring of Honor World Champion on the card, regardless of the fact that he's not really defending the title. Yes, he's embroiled in this very serious tournament where that belt is on the line, but he needs to have some presence on the show. So I'm glad that he was there. He won a little nice 6-minute match against Anthony Henry, and then we can move on to the main event.
You needed a palate cleanser. Um, this is always known as the death spot on any card. Eddie Kingston will give you everything he's got no matter where he is. And no
Mm-hmm.
matter where he is on the card, he still makes that spot feel special. Even 6 minutes with Anthony Henry, who I looked at in this match, man, and I was just like, I know he was Asher Hale, he was in WWE, but something about him, man, to me is like, how has this dude not been like a mega star?
Because he's small. I mean,
He's
that's really the only
jacked.
thing.
He's handsome. He's a great wrestler. He can talk on the mic. Like, I know he's not tall, but like, is he any smaller than like AJ Styles?
Now he is.
Well,
Look,
now
Debbie, did you see AJ come back?
I did. I
What a
did.
time for you to say that, friend.
Yeah, and that was not an intentional segue, but like in all
Yeah,
seriousness, like he is, he's not smaller than AJ, and I know AJ is generational, all time great, but like he's not dissimilar to a guy like that in size and technical ability. So it's just
right.
surprising to me that he hasn't made it a little bit further. But
I agree, man. We'll see what's more, but I think that there's more value in him and JD Drake as a tag team possibly being top contenders for the Ring of Honor tag team titles. I think that's they
yeah,
need to establish that first before
yeah,
any talk of him being a serious singles competitor, at
hmm
least in my opinion.
yeah.
Without further ado, though, Ring of Honor Women's World Championship main event: Athena defending against Billy Starks. Um, yeah, you know what? Now that you say it, like this may have been my match of the night had we got the moment of Billy Starks winning the title. However, the way that it was executed with Athena winning, they told a tremendous story. Athena is still, the top dog in the Ring of Honor women's division. She is so smart. She is so, calculated with how she prepares for her matches. And knows how to defeat any opponent, and I think that they're telling a great story with that. Um and her run is going to continue, but it did seem like in the media scrum that Tony is going to make a little bit more of an effort to get her on AEW television um on a weekly basis, so hopefully we see
So
that unfold.
I'm hard pressed to see any reason why Billy didn't win, and this is not coming from any malice towards Athena, man. She is a G, like for real, for real. But
Mhm.
like this was the spot to crown Billy, and instead you turned Billy back into a minion to what? You know what I mean? Like I
Let's
don't know.
Here's the thing. Let's see how it plays out on TV.
Yeah,
They had that nice moment there at the end. Maybe that's Athena. Athena's going to be a baby face. Maybe she's going to be a little bit nicer to Billy Starks going forward.
I don't
Um,
want that.
Yeah, I know, but like
I would rather an unhinged Athena that lost the title,
I
right?
liked I liked the elements of Billy Stark showing different shades of her character throughout
Yeah.
this match, showing the viciousness
Hmm.
to be able to take out Athena, and I thought that was really really well executed, and I think people need to keep in mind too, that, like, this girl just turned 19 years old. Um, is it disappointing that she came up short in her first big opportunity? Yes, but the key thing here is that, like, this is her first big opportunity. It's gonna not going to be
You're
her
right.
last big
You're right.
opportunity. She's going to have a lot that are going to be coming her way from this. So, like, I think that this is just going to be part of the long story of Billy Starks to eventually get the Ring of Honor title. It just wasn't happening right now. And we also need to keep in mind that this was the first meeting between these two in a
Hmm.
one-on-one match. So as Billy progresses and they may be able to tell the story next time around of Billy being able to game plan really well for Athena and catching her and end up winning the championship and kind of finding Athena's vulnerabilities by continuing her association with her.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I respect the this isn't her first rodeo, like first chance at this.
Mhm.
It won't be her first rodeo next time. So yeah, that's a good way to put it. She is still very young. I just thought it was such a tailor-made moment and chance to like start the new era of Ring of Honor next year with a new champion. Let Athena come forward. Um, I think that with Thunder Rosa reappearing, which we'll touch on a little bit, I'm sure, that does crowd things a little bit more in AEW. So, maybe in the big picture, it's good. My feeling was that as soon as Tony had introduced this new women's TV title for Ring of Honor, I know that you saw that,
Mhm.
or if you hadn't, here's your breaking news. Um, to me, it was like, okay, they just made that the consolation prize in league with when they made the World Heavyweight Championship, right? It's like, well, they're not going to give the main one to anybody else because Athena's been doing this so long, so we're going to have this secondary one for you now.
See, I disagree with that because there is a men's secondary title in almost every promotion that exists. So why not have a women's secondary title?
I mean, there is a women's secondary title in AEW, but I digress.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying it should. We just didn't need another title right away. Like it's one of those things where like I'm not saying that AEW is title crazy because WWE does the same thing.
Hmm.
Wrestling is title belt crazy. Period. End of story. And I'm fine with that. I'm just saying like I don't think it was the move right away. Like maybe go with a women's tag titles or something to that effect first. But
I don't think
I'm
they
gonna
have a
let it
deep
play out.
enough division to have that, at least right now.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But
This gets a hot dog and a handshake from me.
yes,
Athena and Billy Starks.
yes.
Overall, man, I would give this show. Fuck.
Show gets a hot dog from me. Maybe not a handshake
Show in
because the
general, yeah, show in general gets a hot dog from me.
final battle final battle review is a hot dog from Dirty Dan says that.
Hmm. Absolutely, man. So let's also talk about other things that happened this week. Roman Reigns made his return on SmackDown. Randy Orton made his intentions known that he wants to go after Roman. Brother, I don't know what it is, but ever since Randy has come back, I am all in on it.
Me too.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Me
He
too.
is a guy that just makes me like I'm into it, you know?
Randy's my dog right now, bro. Like
Yeah,
I'm
he
I'm
is.
100% behind you. I think that it is totally feasible for him to be the challenger for Roman Reigns, even in the short
Definitely.
term. Like he's the one of the biggest baby faces on that return. He's easy to root for, even though he's slimy. Um, I don't think he's gonna be the one to take the title off of Roman.
No.
But man, for a short term program until he gets back to Cody, beautiful.
But, as I said to you from last week, going back to what Cody said, after he came up short from last year for the title, we're seeing cracks in the armor of the bloodline. We
Mhm.
got clues this week, seeing Jimmy Uso kind of getting pushed aside in terms of being in favor with Roman. He was the one that ended up facing Randy, which was an entertaining match, but ultimately there was we lost Dan for a second. I will continue though. Ultimately, uh, kind of lost my train of thought with Dan leaving. um yeah, so anyway, um let's just wait till Dan gets back. Dan, you're back.
I'm back. I'm back.
All
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck happened there. I'm gonna blame my dogs. Let's say
Yeah,
the Wi-Fi
sorry
hub.
guys, kind of caught me off guard. Maybe we'll get a little bit better of continuing once somebody unexpectedly signs off like that. But regardless, I thought that you're seeing cracks in the armor of the bloodline. Jimmy looks like he's going to be the next one that's going to be leaving, and LA Knight came out for the save, and then we saw the return of AJ Styles coming out for a further save. AJ
Swole
Styles,
J Styles.
swole as all hell. Definitely put on another 25 pounds. Randy Orton, by the way, 275 right now. He's usually at
Everybody's looking
250.
jacked, swole.
25 pounds of muscle by Randy Orton. I don't
Shit
know
is
what they're going to
shit's
announce.
cooking.
AJ looks about 220 right now.
He is the whole roster is cooking, man. Storyline wise, everybody's looking jacked. They are really not fucking around right now.
Yeah, they
Like
aren't.
they are hitting, and AJ in the main event scene just makes it feel that much better.
What do you think? But the way they're going is AJ took out LA Knight.
So you're probably going to
So,
see AJ versus LA Knight, but still, like those two are like still at the top of the card, even though they're not wrestling for the title, right?
mhm.
So like they're still in the main event program. We saw that last night with LA Knight interfering, AJ interfering, and then they go at it, and AJ stares down Roman, and Randy's got It's always better when there's. I hate a only one person is involved in the title feud,
Yeah,
right? Like it makes no sense. Have everybody in it in some shape, form, or fashion, and you win. But
for sure, man. We also want to mention that there has been an alliance that has been formed with Japanese pro wrestling. And I believe that this is really a response to, you know, trying to band together in case WWE like expands. Don't you think?
maybe, but like also maybe it is just really them trying a new alliance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interchanging, you know, talent, co-branded shows, things of
Hmm.
that nature, where you're working together in that old NWA style, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they have one unified title for all Japan. You know what I mean? Like of all of Japan. So I think it's a really cool little thing. I know it's not going to hit the major American markets in any way, but it's definitely an interesting, you know, issue
This is
that's
yeah.
playing out.
This is the equivalent to like if WWE and AEW and TNA and all those major
And
companies in the US.
GCW and like and
Mhm.
MLW, like those
They
groups,
all
like
join
all the
together.
biggest names that you've heard of working together to keep the scene safe.
Yeah. Hmm.
And good for them. I think it is definitely something that should be done.
Yes, absolutely. And just to recap, who's a part of it: New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Noah, DDT Pro Wrestling, Ganbear Pro Wrestling. Don't really know what that is. Big
Me neither.
Japan Pro Wrestling, Dragon Gate, Stardom, and Tokyo Joshi Pro. So
Yeah. I mean, two huge women's wrestling,
promotions. Yep.
promotions, and obviously we all know New Japan. All Japan has been doing big things. Noah and Dragon Gate have some, top notch graduates from their ranks that have, been big names. So
Mhm.
I'm interested to see how this all plays out. Should be fun.
Absolutely, man. And then of course Dynamite we have tomorrow night. Some really great matches happening, as we mentioned before. The Gold League rolls on in the Continental Classic. Briscoe and Jay Lethal. I liked their interaction last week, kind of acknowledging to each other, hey, we're not really fighting for anything at this point. We're kind of
Yep.
just fighting for pride. So let's put it all on the line. I think we're going to see a really classic match between those two because that's where we're used to seeing. The last time that they were put in a special match, that Jay Briscoe tribute match between Jay and Mark Briscoe was fantastic.
I know I talked about it earlier during our C2 update, but I do think that this one's going to go the limit
Yeah,
because I
absolutely.
don't think that you're going to put either one of them at
Oh, the
zero.
limit as in the time limit.
I do.
Okay,
I
got
think they're
it.
going to give him time limit, especially after what Briscoe did. I think that it plays into that. I mean, maybe they won't, and I'm a complete idiot, and it's
I
been
got
known to
Mark
happen.
Briscoe winning it just straight up.
If he
He's coming off
wins,
of a really strong
if
showing from Saturday
if
night.
somebody
Friday
has to
night.
win, it's going to be him.
Yep.
I don't think Lethal wins, but I could see a draw happening.
Then we got Swerve versus Roosh. My gut says Swerve here, but if
Same.
I'm not going to count out Roosh either, like he may really
I am.
disrupt these standings.
I still think Swerve wins here.
Yeah, yeah. And
Even though
then
Roosh has been notorious about not wanting to lose, I think that he's just kind of made peace with it at this point.
mhm. We got Moxley versus Jay White in the Gold League. Man, I think that yeah, I think Jay White's going to come on top of this.
Jay White.
Yeah, yep. And then this is an interesting one. Winner faces Tony Storm for the AEW Women's Championship at World's End. Saraya versus Riho. I really want Saraya to win because it's a much more interesting story. Dependent, yeah.
No, my screen didn't freeze. I was making
Call
a
me
face at
call
you.
me crazy, but
You're
Rio
crazy.
just has no heat going into this match with Tony Storm. I don't even know why I would be rooting for Riho. Tony Storm is the one that's super entertaining all the time. Saraya is her former stablemate. There's actually a built-in storyline with that. And Tony is one of the only ones that got a really decent match out of Saraya. So I think that she can do it again. So that's why I'm hoping for that match result to happen.
I mean, you can like I don't less Saraya in the ring for me better.
Okay.
But I respect your opinion. I just disagree with it wholeheartedly. I don't want to see her wrestle.
And then we got Commander and Roderick Strong. I don't know. Roderick Strong every week just kind of pisses me off more and more. I just think that the whole thing is just becoming so played out, and I just kind of want him. I want old Roderick Strong back.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you beat a dead horse, but I don't mind it, and I think that they'll put on a really good match with really contrasting styles.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And MJF and Samoa Joe, we're gonna hear from them, and should be a good show. Dynamite tomorrow night.
where do you think we're gonna go on the Devil storyline? Do you think we're gonna get any progression, being that it's
I fucking hope
one of the
so,
last
man, because I'm like
Dynamite?
throwing my arms up in the air. I don't know what the fuck they're going to be doing with that whole
I
thing.
don't either. I don't either. And apparently Facebook had some rumor about it being Marty Skrull, and I said,
Ugh,
like, why do
that
you have
would
to do
be
that to me?
deep.
Like, why do you have to do that to me, knowing that I want of he is one of the people that I wanted to be a scumbag the least. Like I
Oh, I
wanted him to.
know.
He would have been so huge in AEW had he not been a total fucking scum fuck. It's too bad.
It's a real shame. Yep, we could go all day about a lot of them that we thought
Yeah,
were good ones, but I
for
digress.
sure.
Talking about a hot dog and a handshake, I think that everybody should be going out of their way to watch the main event of Rampage from this past week. It was a 6-man tag match. It was the uh, man, it was Top Flight and Action Andretti against Pentagon, Commander, and Vikingo. For me, I think that this was the 6-man tag match of the year. Was it the 6-man tag
by
match
far.
of all time, though?
No, probably not.
Probably not.
Obviously,
But
I want to
like,
be a little bit.
it's definitely, it has a seat at the table.
This was American Lucha Libre at its finest.
Yeah.
Right. That's what those guys are. Faction Andretti is they're American luchadors,
They're calling them
and
Faction Andretti.
I don't know. I saw it somewhere, so I stole it. I don't think that that's what they're actually calling them. I'm just.
I think if anything, it should just be They should just still call themselves
Top
Flight,
Flight
but
with
Andretti's just a new
Andretti
member
in
of
it.
it. No.
Yeah, no, and that's fine either way. But no, this was the perfect match for them to show off what they do, and I hope that it continues. And I think that there's a strong case to be made for Top Flight to ultimately take those trios titles off of the Acclaimed.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just tough with a babyface on babyface, pairing in that regard.
dude. It should happen because clearly they don't know what the fuck they're doing with the Acclaimed right now, and it's sad to say.
Yeah, I mean probably, but I don't know what else we can possibly say about it, other than they came out this past Collision angry, and I think that hopefully that leads to something.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really genuinely think we're gonna get a real big reset of AEW come World's End. I think we're gonna be looking at a lot of big changes. I don't want to say like different things. I think we're going to see different pushes. I think we're going to see a lot of new champions. I think coming into the new year, we're going to see a lot of things change.
We'll see. I mean, I hope that this is the AEW 6-man tag team title match that's going to happen.
I think it will ultimately be the one that does end up happening, and it'll be worth it. I think that they confronted each other on Collision, and we shall see.
Absolutely. So, Dan, I feel like an appropriate way for us to close out the show today, with Christmas being right around the corner. Let's talk about our favorite Christmas-related moment in wrestling history. How about you go first?
So, I'm gonna be honest with you. I racked my brain to come up with something Christmassy, right? But I couldn't think of anything until I thought of the most recent Christmas memory for wrestling that I could. And that was actually 3 days ago. And it popped up in my head because it had popped up in my timeline.
Mhm.
But it was Mick Foley showing up at ICW, No Holds Barred, dressed as Santa Claus, and hitting John Wayne Murdoch with the double arm DDT, causing him to lose. And I know how much you are not a fan of JWM, so I figured letting you know that that was my most recent Christmas memory might pop you a little bit.
Yeah, man. That's I didn't know. I knew that like he came out there and supported some women's wrestler who had her first death match. But I didn't know about the moment that happened with John Wayne Murdoch. But that's pretty awesome.
That was who she was wrestling.
I would say that mine are two, but it's involved with the same person. 1997 Raw, height of the Stone Cold Steve Austin era. He comes out and he stuns Santa Claus. That's just a moment that's always going to be, imprinted into my mind. And then, of course, tribute to the troops when Stone Cold actually dressed up as Santa Claus and gave the stunner to McMahon.
I mean, anytime you say greatest insert holiday memory,
mm-hmm.
and you say Stone Cold, like or somebody's gonna put Stone Cold in there, right? Like he's always gonna be that one because he's gonna have stunned a turkey or the Easter Bunny or Santa or Jesus himself, because the man has stunned literally everybody.
Yeah.
So like to me, while kind of a cop out, I respect it because hell yeah, it's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Hell yeah. Merry Christmas. And with that being said, guys, as always, follow us on Instagram at SmarkNado, on Twitter at SmarkNado1. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Go check out our link tree. We got everything there. And don't think I left anything out. I hope you guys are really enjoying these live shows because we've been really enjoying them.
Yeah, man, this shit is dope. I don't know how many of you are actually watching live, but always hit us up on the chat if you are. Um, Up here, you see where it says all of our shit. That is the QR code that will bring you to our link tree. That has everything in
I think I
there.
might have said
We,
LinkedIn again. Did I?
I mean, I'm always looking for a job too. So, uh, but no, seriously, check out our link tree, buy some merch. Christmas is coming. Everybody will look good in a Smart NATO hoodie. And stay fresh, cheese bags.
Keep watching wrestling.